back to Love Your Food. This week we have another great fresh summer recipe for you. This is a vegan, gluten-free tabbouleh. Now, tabbouleh is typically made with couscous, which is kind of like a pasta, and it is not generally gluten-free, but this one is because we're using quinoa instead of the couscous, and let's get going with some ingredients. First of all, there's a lot of parsley. We're using flat leaf parsley for this. We're going to be using some green onions as well. Mint is traditional, but we're going to be using oregano. If you have a sensitivity to mint, you can use oregano. We've got some olive oil. We're going to use some lemon juice, some fresh tomatoes, and here is our quinoa. Now you definitely want to start with the quinoa. So we're going to start by getting our quinoa ready. So we want to give it a good rinsing just to get started. So we're going to actually treat the quinoa an awful lot like rice, but there's a couple of steps we have to take first. So the first one that we're going to do is we're going to give it a really good rinsing, just to clear the grains off, make sure there's no dust on it from the production facilities or anything like that. You want to use a really good fine strainer for this because quinoa is quite small, so it will go through a larger strainer. A colander will not do for this. And once it's thoroughly rinsed, it's going to go into a non-stick pan. You don't need to put any oil down, and we'll show you why. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this into our pan, and we're going to get some heat under this. And basically what we want to do is we want to dry it out and just roast it a little. So it's not going to be, we're not going to get it really dark or brown or anything in the pan. We really just want to dry it out and give it just a little bit of a roast as well. Give it a little bit more of a nutty flavor. So you want to spread it out as well as you can. We want to get all of the liquids out of there. So this is getting kind of close. You can still see a little bit of steam coming off of there, so there's still a little bit of moisture in the quinoa. When you start hearing popping, that's some of the kernels of quinoa sort of popping open, breaking open. You know you're getting close. And here it is done. So we're getting a little bit of caramelization on the bottom there. We don't want this to get too dark. We don't want to roast it too much. Just a little light roast. Make sure it's completely dry, and then it's going to go into our pot. And then much like rice, we are going to mix this with some water. Of course, all of the ingredients are going to be in the description below as usual. And we're just going to give that a little stir. And again, we're going to cook this very much like rice. So once that gets going, we're going to put the lid on and we're going to let that come to a boil. So we're going to get that under a pretty high heat. Then once it's boiling, we're going to give it a quick stir. Turn the heat down, and we're going to let that simmer for quite a long time while it cooks. So this is what it looks like once it's done. You can see it's puffed up quite a lot. It's taken up all that moisture, and that's the tabbouleh. That is the quinoa. Now that it's cooked. Last step for the quinoa, we do want it to dry out a little bit. So we're going to cool it and dry it out at the same time. We're just going to spread it out on a baking sheet. If you want, you can lay some parchment down as well. It's not going to stick all that badly we're not baking it or anything. So it shouldn't stick too badly. We're just letting it dry out and dry a little bit and cool off a little bit. You don't want to spread it out as best you can. And there it is. So while that's happening, we're going to get our salad going. So tabbouleh is really sort of a parsley salad with some additions to it. So first addition we're going to be using here is our oregano. So here Chef Caleb is taking it off the stems. And then for the oregano, we're actually going to be doing quite a fine chop on it. So the easiest way to do this with fresh herbs is you just want to sort of bundle it together. And there you go. So there's our oregano. As I said before, mint is typically traditional for this, but if you have a sensitivity to mint or something like that, as Chef Caleb does, you can replace it with something like oregano. Now here's the parsley. Again, the best way to do this is just sort of bundle it up into a ball with your hand. And because this is a parsley salad, we're not going to go quite as fine on the parsley as we did with the oregano. So you can see a little bit more of a rough chop, bigger pieces. It's okay if you get a few, full leaves in there. It's all right to have some variation in texture in that. It doesn't have to be super even or really, really small. You want to cut all the way down to the stems. You don't really want the stems in there, but you do want to make sure you get all your leaves. And then that's all going to go into our bowl with the oregano. And then our green onions. The whites we're going to do pretty fine. You can see Chef Caleb here doing a fairly fine chop on the whites here. And then when you get down to the green parts, he's going to go a little bit bigger of a slice. So not quite as fine on the green bits at the end. And of course you want to get rid of any end parts that are dry or discolored or anything like that. So the ends there weren't so nice, so we're just going to discard those. But you see the greens are a little bit bigger in chop than the whites here. And again, it gives you a nice variation in texture. From here, we're going to make our dressing. So we're going to start with some lemon juice. And once again, you don't want to overdress this. You're going to see that a little bit of dressing goes quite a long way in this one. That's about as far as we're going to go with the lemon juice here. And then this is going to be where our seasoning comes in. So a little bit of salt into the lemon juice. We're just going to give that a little mix to make sure that the salt starts to dissolve in there. And then we're going to add our olive oil. So the olive oil comes in, and we're going to give that another little stir just to sort of emulsify them together a little bit. We're going to have to do this again before we pour it into the salad because it's not going to really stay. And there's your dressing. That's really all that we're doing for the dressing. Just a very fresh little lemon and oil dressing. Now the tomatoes. We have some nice fresh field tomatoes. These are going to get a fairly rough dice. It's not going to be really, really small. So here Chef Caleb is just going to cut it into rounds, and then as usual he's going to cut it into strips, and then turn the strips and cut it into this slightly rough dice. Now these were very fresh tomatoes, so even a very sharp knife is still going to cause a little bit of squishing. Now for the ingredients in this one, you can really determine what sort of proportions you want of everything in this. It's very easy to customize. If you want more tomato, you want more of the parsley. If you want to use curly leaf parsley, you can do that as well. There's lots of ways to personalize this one. So the quinoa is mostly dry now. It's all cooled, so we're just going to add that in. And once all that's in, we're pretty much done. All that's left to do is we're going to mix it. So a little bit of fresh black pepper first. And then our dressing is going to go on top of that. So again, just another quick little stir before it goes in. And that's that. And then we're just going to make sure that everything's well blended. Make sure you get all of your dressing out. And then you can start to get it all together. So the tomato's a little bit delicate, so you don't want to really get in there and stir really hard. Just sort of a gentle fold is all you want to do for this, until it's all well combined like this. And that's the whole thing. That's your tabbouleh. Now this goes great with a lot of different Middle Eastern dishes. We actually had this with the saffron yogurt chicken we did last week. And again, this recipe is completely vegan. It is completely gluten-free. Very delicious. We really, really enjoy this one. It's super fresh. The parsley and the whatever herb you choose to use, whether it be mint or oregano or some other replacement like that, just excellent. Really great flavor profile, and lots of room to customize this one. You can use proportions that you like. So we hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.